World Refugee Day is intended to be a celebration of the human spirit and of the fortitude of the millions of people who, despite being displaced and dispossessed, relentlessly strive to improve their lives and those of their families and communities. Yet this year, we are again reminded of the work that we have ahead of us as world leaders remain unable or unwilling, rather, to resolve conflicts. The UNHCR recently announced the seemingly unimaginable 100 million people that have now been forced to flee their homes. The war in Ukraine, as well as new or continuing emergencies in places such as Ethiopia that we spoke about this morning, Burkina Faso, Myanmar, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, they have all contributed to this staggering figure. The solutions deficit continues to grow as more people are forced to flee than are able to return home. Maybe also to resettle to a third world country or integrate fully into the country where they have sought safety.
In other words, a fast displacement is outpacing solutions for those on the run. But it doesn't have to be that way. And leaders can work together to make peace and resolve the plight of those who have been displaced with lasting and humane solutions. Wow, that's a very intense one as we celebrate World Refugee Day today. Very important conversations. We're seeing lots of people who have been forced to become refugees, even
Sadly.
within, our country, Nigeria, on the continent. We've seen lots of people who have to be refugees by force.
Forced to flee their homes and whatnot. And of course,
for several reasons.
We spoke about Ethiopia
poverty.
this morning. Yes. We've also spoken about Ukraine. Of course, if you've been following the news in the last few months, Ukraine is one of those that have been mentioned. But even here in Nigeria, there's still IDP camps, that started in 2010 and still exist till date. Those people have still not been able to go back to their homes.
They've had babies. The babies have become teenagers, and they're still in the IDP camps. For those who don't know what we're talking about, it's internally displaced persons camp. And we're seeing more people willing to risk their lives to undergo the most risky journey on water, via land. We've seen several people dying in the deserts because they're trying to flee their country, flee poverty. I mean, what we're seeing is a modernized form of refugee living happening in many countries.
Yes.
Even the concept, there's a concept in Nigeria, the concept of japa, the concept of people at the end of the day, the underlying cause is because there's something where they are, there's something that hasn't been fixed in their country and they're looking for this thing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Good living, just basically being able to ask for the basic necessities of life.
Yes, you don't necessarily have to be in an IDP camp to be termed a refugee. There are people who live in different countries across the world that would really love to be back home, but they really can't. It almost feels like the same thing, for those people as those who are in IDP camps in Borno State or in Edo State or wherever. So, of course, World Refugee Day, the conversation is very important. And of course, it's a call to governments across the continent and across the world to do more, to do better. Of course, this is from the United Nations and other international NGOs to do better 100%, to bring these people home and to make a living and make life more bearable for thousands, millions of people across the world.
I mean, to wrap it up, Sound Sultan of blessed memory nicely said, Ajole Dabile, and that's Yoruba for it would never be like home. No place, no matter how far you go, you must always want to come home. Let's make home for these people, be home as it should be, not home that they expect it to be, not the home that it is now. And whilst they're in that process, even in these camps, the government should, around the world, should provide for them. I mean, we took World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and we had the guests on the show telling us that some of the refugees were using grass to see their periods. Imagine young girls using grass because they can't even afford to eat. It's someone that has eaten food that we're talking about seeing periods. So there's so much, the negative effect on them is, it's very widely spreading. But it's important that we celebrate their lives and the bright futures that are living in these camps. And like you said, hopefully bring them home one day.